What's up, guys? Welcome back to Unbreakable Grind. It's your guy CJ back with another video. All right, this is going to be a video reviewing Jordan Peterson. We're going to be talking about hypergamy. All right, I'm going to come at this at a different angle just to give my opinions on hypergamy, because you know there's a lot of mumbo jumbo out there about hypergamy. You know what I'm saying? And we'll get right in there, man. This is a very interesting topic, and I want to come at it from just a pure, honest, raw perspective. Let's keep going.
What role do women play in relationship to men? Well, first, they make them self-conscious. Let's not ever forget about that. Because I would say the primary role that women have in relationship to men is to make them self-conscious. And men don't precisely like that. There's nothing that will make a man more self-conscious than being rejected. And why? Because why is he rejected? Well, obviously, Mother Nature, in the guise of that particular woman, has said, you're not so bad for a friend, but there's no reason that your genetic material should propagate itself into the future. Right, well, and it's not like men are exactly happy about being made self-conscious by women, right? It's a major source of continual tension between men and women, and it's no wonder, but it's also the case, and this is something really cool. And
it's a major source of continual tension between men and women. Man's an absolute genius. I don't quote his stuff for no reason. Now, if you go through the dating market, you guys know the whole dating scene on the freaking YouTube platform, all the mumbo jumbo, like I said, you see fellas are talking about these chicks are unrealistic and they aren't me. That, you know, they want these top dudes and they're overweight and they're this and they're that. And then you got the lady saying, these dudes only want those women and this, that. And it's just stupid thing where everybody's just pointing the finger. You know what I'm saying? And that's what he's describing. That tension, that's just the tension he's describing. All right? That's that natural tension that comes. It's a natural thing, man. I just want to point that out before we keep going. Kind of what he's speaking on. It's kind of powerful. It's kind of amazing to think about the landscape, especially if you're involved in that whole red pill thing mixed with the purple pill stuff, mixed with the freaking like Kevin Samuels type dating crap. Like it's mixed with like whatever, all of that. Then that's the tension. All right, let's keep going.
interesting to know, you know, we diverged. We diverged from the common ancestor between us and chimpanzees about 6 million years ago. Here's why, at least in part. Chimpanzee females are non-discriminant maters. They'll mate with any male. When they go into heat, which human females don't, when they go into heat, then any male is allowed access. Now the dominant males chase the subordinate males away. And so the dominant males are more likely to leave offspring, but it's not because of the female choice. It's not the case with human beings. Human females engage in hypergamy, and hypergamy is and this is also true cross-culturally, and it's also quite, it's just as extensive in Scandinavia. Not quite, there's a bit of attenuation, but not much. Women mate across and up dominance hierarchies. Men mate across and down. Okay, and that has to be the case because obviously it has to work that way. If one goes up, the other has to go down. The socioeconomic status of a woman is determines almost zero of her attractiveness towards a man.
And we all know that to be true. This makes perfect sense. If you're a dude, you more likely can agree. All right, you don't look and say, "Oh my God, look how much money she makes." Oh my goodness, you get what I'm saying? A dude will just say, "God dang, that's a nice butt." You know, so that's just simple as that. It's just facts. And a chick will say, "God dang, that dude got some money." We know that. All right, come on. If you don't know that, then you've been under a rock, which could be a good thing if you're out here winning and doing the hard work. All right, let's keep going.
Whereas the socioeconomic status of a man is a major determinant of his attractiveness towards a woman. And it isn't his wealth either, because that's been tested. It's his capacity to generate and be productive and to share, because that beats the hell out of wealth. Wealth can disappear, right? But the capacity.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, I know I just talked about the money, but he's talking about the attributes that pretty much guarantee that you acquire assets and your ability to distribute that to people you love. All right? So, yeah, you know, I'm on the same track. That's what I preach on the channel too, guys. You guys know. I'm all about the characteristics and the attributes that lend themselves to wealth creation and winning, being dominant. And as you also know, I'm always talking about giving that to my family. It's all about giving it to my family. It's all about giving it to the next generation. If you really pay attention, none of it's about what I'm going to get, because I've got everything I ever wanted since birth. I don't want none of this stuff on earth, really. Let me just be honest. I just want to take as much as I can, claim as much as I can, get my roots deep as I can, and then give as much as I can away and be myself while I'm on this earth. All right. But that's what he's talking about. But let's keep going. Just wanted to clear it up.
Capacity to be productive and share, that's a much more important element. And why not be chosen on the basis of that, especially because women have to have infants, and infants make the woman dependent, and the woman is just looking logically, rationally, and from an evolutionary perspective for someone who's useful enough to lend a hand. So women make intense demands on men, and it's no wonder. But the thing is that because women engaged in hypergamy, at least in part, we diverged quite rapidly from chimpanzees, because the selection pressure that women placed on men developed the entire species. Now there's two things that happened as far as I could tell. The men competed for competence, let's say. So the male hierarchy is a mechanism that pushes the best men to the top, virtually by definition, and then that's the effect of that is multiplied by the fact that women who are hypergamous peel from the top, and so that the males who are the most competent are much more likely to leave offspring, and that seemed to be what drove our cortical expansion, for example, which happened very, very rapidly over the course of evolutionary time.
Come on, man. This is a beautiful thing he talked about here. This is very beautiful. I love this, because a lot of times when you're hearing these debates, man, we're hearing these debates about, you know, the how men and
art
women
to
interact
me
today.
is really putting yourself
when we're hearing these debates about, you know, how men and women interact and dating and freaking all of this stuff, right? And men complaining about women being a certain way, and women complaining and yada yada. Well, really, man, and I know I comment on a lot of these things, and I entertain a lot of these things from a perspective. So I've got two parts of me, right? I've got the piece of me that has to really fit into the world and be a normal person. You know what I'm saying? And like ignore the pure logic. Sometimes the logical thing can not be socially acceptable. All right. So I got the part of me that like fits into the world and like just accepts the freaking interpretations of all the people in the world. And then I have the logical piece that's like undebatable and obvious, that I kind of live by on a day-to-day basis. So for instance, right, when we're talking about all these dating things, we talk about women with these unrealistic expectations. As we know, people have built complete empires at this point off of kind of talking about just how insane women's a woman's expectations of a man can be, regardless of where she may be in her life, right? But when I think about it logically, it's obvious that that's how it should be. Every woman should want the best dude. And I know that sounds stupid, okay, to some of you, but it's true. Every woman should, I think, but this is from an evolutional perspective, all right? When I think about what really turns, if I think about us as in regards to evolution, and not in regards to what's going to lead to the most relationships, all right, or what's going to lead to the most marriages. Those are just things we created as humans, right? Like that's just a thought we constructed in order to try to make our existence more efficient, like relationships or marriages. Those are just human man-made thoughts. But when I think about this from a evolution perspective, all right, it's quite clear that the best way for the Homo sapien to reach its most optimal form, you would literally want only the top, the highest IQ, the most dominant figures to be replicated. And I think women being extremely picky and only wanting the top guys is constructive when it comes to that idea. I'm a true believer in that. All right, because I think about it like this, right? Forget all of these man-made rules we have. If we think about that, we're an organism. We're the Homo sapien. What's going to create the most dominant Homo sapien possible from an evolution perspective? And I think it's going to be hypergamy being maximized. All right. So for instance, right, I believe that the reason that in the 60s marriages were higher and women were not as obviously hypergamous is because they were regulated more. That's what I truly believe, right? So women had less rights. By having less rights, you have less choices. And you're pretty much restricted, right? So as you restrict the person, they're going to look less like themselves, and they're going to look more like they're going to fit more of a mold within the restrictions that they've been subjected to. So that makes sense. So I believe in the 60s, women were hypergamous, but they had a more rigid structure that they had to operate against. And that forced the illusion that they might have been less hypergamous and they weren't. So as they had more options, as less red tape existed, as less regulation existed, as more options came available, as free choice became available, I think the natural hypergamy that's been there the whole time started to just manifest itself in reality, so where we can see it, it became visible. All right. And a lot of people think something changed, but nothing really changed from a fundamental evolutionary perspective. We're the same. The regulations changed and the behavior became more visible. The internal thoughts were able to manifest in the reality easier due to less restriction. And that's what I think happened. So now today, when women have the right to accept and say, you know what, I want to be with the top, this top percent, this little bit tip top. That's that natural, that's the woman unintentionally making the Homo sapien, making the human race, the human species, as efficient as freaking possible. That's what I truly believe. So when what I truly think when I see women being absurdly unrealistic from a surface perspective, it's like, hey, this woman hasn't done anything with her life, but she wants this top dude. It makes sense to me. I think that's what should happen, because I think that's what leads to the best version of a human being from an evolutional perspective. I truly do. She's literally neglecting almost all men and only choosing the specific top, giving them the highest chance to replicate. But also on top of that, we all know that the men at the top, they have the choices. So now that they have the choices, so this is amazing too, right? If you look over into other countries, like take Egypt or somewhere where they have kings and provinces and stuff like that, hypergamy has always been obvious, right? You still have kings with 1,000 wives or 100 wives. Like, this is never went away. You know, this regulation that we had over here in the United States, the way we constructed our country, gave an illusion. It created a couple of illusions, all right? So women have been consistently hypergamous, which is part of our nature. Now, you know, and this stuff is fascinating. So when I think about what's the best way for us to create the most powerful human being possible, the most efficient human being possible, there are two contributors. There are two major contributors to outcomes. I was doing some research on this. I think when it comes to like outcomes of kids, outcomes of children, one is environmental and one is IQ. Okay, I had an article on that about another video, but your environmental perspective, like what your experiences in your environment affects your outcomes, and then your IQ affects your outcome. And as you bring those together, you can optimize for the best experience for a human being. All right. So when I think about hypergamy, to me is maximizing the IQ of the human being, right? I believe that as women are hypergamous, the smartest people, the most witty people, the most savvy people would have a chance to reproduce more, right? The people who have the option, so those dudes who actually get those women can then choose, they can select the breed, which women they want to replicate with, and you'll have this cream of the crop type of human being created. All right. I believe in things like marriage and stuff like that, as you know, but I mean, I acknowledge that these are man-made concepts. Biologically, they don't make sense at all. Okay, evolution wise, I mean, it doesn't make sense literally at all. Okay, that's a non-debatable point. Like, it's obvious. I could debate it with you, but it's gonna be very tough to defend the other side of this coin. All right. So with that being said, my whole point in bringing this up is I know we all have our opinions on what women should be doing, what men should be doing. Women are delusional. These men are lazy. These men are delusional. All this bull crap. But at the end of the day, on a fundamental level, this hypergamy thing that we see women reaching as high as possible is a good thing. Okay. It is actually healthy. And if you look at how it affects the male species, male specifically, the male gender, hypergamy, I believe hypergamy leads to more innovation. I believe hypergamy is one of the main reasons we've managed to be so industrial and so productive as a species. I truly do. Women's accept insane expectations of men and their idea of wanting these top dudes. It's like these unrealistic expectations actually lead to you trying to hit them natural, like unintentionally. It's like you're biologically constructed to want to fulfill the thought. And it's as crazy as it sounds, this leads to innovation. This leads to groundbreaking technology. This leads to some of the best businesses that we have today, some of the best innovations we have today, some of the most profound thoughts that we have today. It's a very healthy thing. You know what I'm saying? And I understand that this the hypergamy thing might not play into marriages and everybody having their perfect lover couple thing and everyone having their perfect mate. It doesn't tie to that, but I don't even know if this is an interesting question, right? Do you think, I'm curious to what you all think. Do you think that monogamy and relationships and stuff like that limits the human species from ever reaching its optimal form? Do you think that the social constructs that we've created, monogamy, marriage, relationships, all those things, limit us as human beings, the human being, the Homo sapien, from reaching its optimal evolution, its most maximum potential when it comes to evolution? I personally do think it does, to be honest, but I'm okay with, I at least accept that these mechanisms we have, marriage and things like that, they give us, there are tools to make the human existence better, right? So in a perfect world, everyone has a perfect IQ, all right? So that means they freaking can understand things easily. When they have problems, they can freaking reverse engineer them instantly. Nothing's really that complicated. They don't really get stressed because they're always in self-actualizing. They're super smart people. That's the perfect world. That's not the real world. So in the real world, you have a distribution of IQ, which I believe is trying to iterate towards a superhuman or a human that has I believe the human species is trying to eliminate certain IQ levels. I think it's eventually trying to iterate towards ultimate intelligence, where the bottom IQs disappear. That's why I think the woman hypergamy comes into play. But I think the monogamy is a way to solve the distribution of IQ and actually make life livable, right? Like, so to say, you know what? Let's not make it to where like those top 10% of dudes or 5% or 2% have every woman, because then it's like life sucks, because that means 90% of men have a terrible life. So it's much better if you just say, you know what, everyone has a significant other, which isn't true, because there isn't an equal amount of men and women. So that's not true, but it just makes life better to just lie to yourself and say that that's true. All right. And with that being said, it makes life better given that there's a distribution of IQ, right? And that means someone with a mediocre IQ can, and they say this might be offensive. Dude, this is just how I think about it, man. You know what I'm saying? If you're offended, then you just don't, I'm thinking through things, right? But this makes it think about someone with a mediocre IQ or even a less than average IQ. If you have things like monogamy and everyone has someone for themselves, there's someone for everybody. And, you know, it gives you a chance to actually find someone and stick with them for the rest of your life, you know? And if all women want the same dudes, all of them won't ever have a dude either. So they won't have a significant other either. So that means most women will have a terrible existence, also a lonely existence. So these things like relationships and monogamy solve the problem. Given the inadequacy in our intelligence and where we are in our evolution, I think the distribution of IQ that we have is solved by these mechanisms we've created, like relationships. But there's a chance that if we maximize the hypergamy in women and got rid of all boundaries and just allowed them to be completely hypergamous and only replicate with the top dudes and just let that be what it is with no boundaries, I believe that the human race would evolve faster and we would innovate faster and we would achieve things faster. That's why I think there's a chance for that case. All right. And I think it's a very interesting thought. All right. So with that being said, man, I'm not going to go too much further into it than that. I think this is a very interesting thought, man. So when I think about this logically, I am happy that women do that because I believe that it's one of the most important, properties about the human being that has allowed us to achieve so much so fast. Now, when we dissect that and kind of map that over reality or a day-to-day living, the day-to-day life, then we need mechanisms like marriage and relationships just to make life a little more enjoyable. All right, like, okay, I want someone to go through my life with. Okay, I may not be the top dude, but I still want someone. Or I might not be the woman who, even though I want the top dude, I might not ever get one because he has so many options. So, she still want to enjoy her life. So these social constructs help us at the end of the day. But I still have reason to believe that they limit us too. There's a push and pull, a pro and con to everything. And at the end of the day, man, that's my 2 cents. All right, I just want to review that video. This is an interesting perspective. I don't hear this perspective much. I haven't heard it at all, really. So that's something I want to put out there, man. What do you all think? Let me know. And with that being said, guys, I'm out this thing. If you like the content, hit that like button, subscribe if you want more videos, notification if you want those immediately, man. Promise to keep the heat coming, man. Peace.